The longhouse settles into stillness. Outside, waves crash against dark cliffs under a moon that hangs low and heavy. Inside, firelight plays across wooden beams worn smooth by smoke and time. A woman's hands move through wool, carding, spinning, the rhythm older than memory. Her breathing slows. The fire crackles. Somewhere a child murmurs in sleep. You lie awake again tonight. The ceiling above you holds no answers, only shadows. Your mind circles through tomorrow's demands, yesterday's conversations that won't quite settle. You tried everything they say you should try. The special pillows, the white noise, the apps that promise peace through guided breathing. 3 a.m. has become familiar territory. You know the particular quality of darkness at this hour, the way silence has texture, the hollow feeling of being the only one awake in a sleeping world. You are not alone in this, though it feels that way. Studies tracking modern sleep speak of an epidemic of wakefulness. 70% of us struggling. This is how night arrived for those who came before, not with alarms and anxious counting of hours, but as naturally as tide returning to shore. The supplements lined up on your nightstand like soldiers who've forgotten how to fight, and still sleep remains just beyond reach. Smoke slipping through your fingers no matter how you try to grasp it. 70% lying in carefully controlled rooms with optimal mattresses and blackout curtains. More exhausted than our ancestors who slept on straw with wolves howling outside. But there was a time when sleep came unbidden, when bodies moved in harmony with light and dark, with seasons turning, with the ancient rhythms that needed no conscious thought or effort. These are people who built ships that crossed unknown waters, who created art that still catches at something deep within us, who raised children and told stories and fought and loved and mourned and laughed. Something was lost along the way, somewhere between the agricultural revolution and the electric light, between factory whistles and smartphone screens. Humanity misplaced one of its birthrights, the gift of easy rest, the simple closing of eyes and drifting away that should be as natural as drawing breath. They were the Norse, the people we call Vikings, though they called themselves by other names. They lived in the lands where summer light refuses to end and winter darkness seems eternal. Scandinavia in the centuries between 800 and 1100, give or take. We remember them for their dragon-proud ships, for their exploration and their fierce reputation. They did all of this while sleeping in ways we can barely imagine now, here in our carefully climate-controlled bedrooms with our sleep trackers and our melatonin supplements. Let your shoulders drop. Feel them release just a little. You don't need to do anything right now. There's nowhere to be, no task demanding completion. You're simply here listening as we step back through time, back to a world where firelight was the brightest thing in darkness, where the crash of waves kept time more reliably than any clock. We're going to walk slowly through their world, not as scholars measuring and categorizing, but as quiet witnesses to how they lived, how they shaped their days and built their homes and ate their food and organized their communities in ways that made sleep inevitable, natural, deep. Maybe somewhere in their rhythms we'll find something useful. We forget that they may have been among the most well-rested people in human history, not because they possessed secrets we've lost, though in a way they did, because their entire existence supported what the human body was designed to do, where sleep arrived like an old friend, expected and welcome. Maybe in understanding how they rested so well, we'll glimpse why we rest so poorly. Maybe we'll find a path back towards sleep that doesn't require forcing or fighting, but simply allowing. Light arrives slowly in the north. There's no sudden shock of alarm, no jolt from darkness to artificial brightness. Instead, consciousness returns like tide creeping up a beach, gradual and inevitable. The gaps between the longhouse timbers show gray first, then paler gray, then the faintest suggestion of blue or gold, depending on the season. Someone stirs, then another. So breathe. Let the day drain away. Let this moment be enough. We're going back to a place where night meant something different, where darkness was complete and firelight precious, where sleep was woven into the fabric of existence as thoroughly as waking, neither fought against nor feared. But there's no urgency in it. Summer mornings in these latitudes carry a particular magic. The sun barely dipped below the horizon. All night the sky held light, twilight lingering and blending into dawn until you couldn't say where one ended and the other began. The transition from sleep to waking mirrors this, blurred and soft. Imagine waking this way in a Norse settlement along what we now call the Norwegian coast. Your body decides when to wake. Not a clock, not an obligation. Your body, which has been sleeping the deep sleep it needed, which has completed its cycles of restoration and dreaming, which surfaces naturally into wakefulness the way a diver surfaces for air. Gentle, inevitable, right? Winter mornings are darker, yes, but even then there's no violence in the waking. The household stirs according to its own rhythms, its own needs. Perhaps an elder woman wakes first. Her sleep is lighter now, her body's needs different. She rises quietly, feet finding the packed earth floor, hands reaching for the woolen shawl she left nearby. You might surface into consciousness and lie there in the gentle morning dimness, not quite awake, not quite asleep, suspended in between. No one demands you move. No alarm screams, it's mechanical urgency. You float in that space between for as long as it needs to last. The young children sleep longer. Their bodies need more rest, and no one wakes them before they're ready. The men who will work in the fields or tend to boats rise when their bodies tell them sleep has done its work. There's no synchronization, no everyone up at 7 because the schedule demands it. She moves to the fire that burned through the night, now just embers glowing in the darkness. She adds wood, coaxing flame back to life. The smoke rises, familiar and acrid and somehow comforting. This smell means morning, means warmth, means the household waking. This is the first key, though they didn't know to call it that. The first element of their sleep success, allowing the body's own mechanisms for waking to unfold without interference. Inside every human being are systems that manage the transition from sleep to waking. Hormones shift. Cortisol rises gradually through the early morning hours. Body temperature increases by tiny increments. When we honor this natural process, when we let it complete at its own pace, we wake feeling refreshed. The body has prepared itself for the day. But when an alarm cuts through sleep, when we're jolted from deep unconsciousness into immediate demands, the transition is violent. The body hasn't prepared. The systems are caught mid-shift. We feel groggy, disoriented wrong. Instead, each person surfaces into waking according to their own internal timetable, their own biological needs, their own natural rhythms. Brain chemistry changes. Blood pressure comes up. Heart rate lifts. All of this happens on its own, automatically orchestrated by ancient biological programming. Once awake, there's no rushing. The morning unfolds at the pace of hands that have done these tasks 10,000 times. Water drawn from the well, cold and pure. Grains measured out for porridge. A woman stirs the pot, her movements economical and sure. The steam rises, carrying the smell of oats, of barley, of whatever grain stores they're working through. Perhaps berries from summer's drying. The light coming in through the longhouse openings is crucial, more crucial than they could have known. This isn't the flat artificial light of electric bulbs. This is full-spectrum natural light, even on cloudy days vastly brighter than indoor lighting. The light enters the eyes. The retina receives it. The Vikings, without clocks to rule them, avoided this daily violence. They woke as humans are meant to wake, gradually and naturally. Perhaps an egg or two from the hens scratching outside. The preparation takes time, but it's time without anxiety, without the frantic hurry that characterizes modern mornings. This daily light exposure resets the clock every single morning. It tells the brain, and through the brain, every cell in the body that day has begun. It suppresses melatonin, the hormone that promotes sleep. It shifts the timing of thousands of biological processes, synchronizing them all to the external day-night cycle. This is crucial. This is one of the foundations of healthy sleep. Specialized cells that have nothing to do with vision, cells that exist only to detect light levels, send signals along the optic nerve to a tiny cluster of neurons deep in the brain. The suprachiasmatic nucleus, the master clock. Modern humans often miss this morning light exposure. We wake in darkness to mechanical alarms. We move through artificially lit rooms. We might not see actual daylight until we've been awake for hours. And even then it might be the dim light filtered through office windows, a fraction of the intensity of real outdoor light. When a circadian clock is set strongly every morning by bright light, when it knows clearly that day has arrived, then 12 to 16 hours later it will know just as clearly that night has come. Melatonin will rise. Body temperature will drop. Sleep will arrive naturally. After the morning meal, work begins. But work in the Viking world was fundamentally different from what we know. It was physical, varied, and largely self-paced. A farmer moves through his fields, checking the crops, pulling weeds, mending a fence where the posts have worked loose. The work is real, requiring strength and stamina. But it's not the unrelenting mechanical pace of factory work. A craftsman works at his trade, carving wood, perhaps, for a ship's prow. The knife moves through the grain, finding the shape hidden in the timber. The work requires concentration, but it's the kind of focus that can become meditative. The hands know what to do. Our circadian clocks drift, unsynchronized, unclear whether it's day or night. And we wonder why sleep won't come at bedtime, why we lie awake while our minds race. When the body tires, there's a pause, a moment to straighten the back, look at the sky, feel the wind. No supervisor watching, no time clock measuring every second of productivity. Women weave, the shuttle passing back and forth, back and forth. The rhythm is hypnotic. The pattern emerges thread by thread. Or they prepare food, preserve fish, tend to the endless small tasks that keep a household functioning. Children play and help and learn by watching, by doing small things that gradually become larger skills. No one sits still for 8 hours staring at a screen. And all of this happens with regular exposure to outdoor light. Even indoor work is interrupted by trips outside, water to fetch, animals to check, firewood to bring in. No one spends an entire day under artificial light, never seeing the sun. The Vikings experienced the full brightness of day, and this matters enormously for sleep. The mind can drift while the hands work, And this drifting, this letting thoughts wander without purpose, gives the brain a kind of rest that modern constant stimulation never allows. No one maintains the same position, the same posture, the same type of mental activity hour after hour. Research shows this clearly now. When people get bright light exposure during the day, their bodies produce more melatonin at night. The contrast between day and night becomes sharper, more defined. Sleep becomes deeper, more consolidated, more restorative. But when we spend our days in dim indoor lighting, this contrast weakens. Day and night blur together biologically. The Viking day continues with its varied activities. There's social interaction, conversation about the community's needs and plans. There are moments of rest, times when people simply sit together, talking or watching others work. Men might work on a boat together, their labor interspersed with jokes and stories, hands busy while voices weave the social fabric that holds the community together. Bright light during the day, particularly in the morning and early afternoon, strengthens circadian rhythms. It increases the amplitude of the daily biological cycles. It makes the distinction between day and night more pronounced at the cellular level throughout the entire body. Sleep becomes fragile, easily disrupted, less refreshing. The emotional quality of these days shaped sleep as much as the physical activity. Viking life had stresses, certainly. Conflicts between neighbors, worries about weather and harvests, the dangers inherent in their world. But these stresses were concrete and immediate. The roof needs repair before winter. The relationship with that neighboring farm needs mending. This is different from modern anxiety, which so often centers on abstractions we cannot control. The news cycle filling our heads with distant disasters. Social media creating artificial urgencies. Email generating an endless sense of things undone. The Viking concerns were real but addressable. When evening came, the day's work was finished. There was no briefcase of tasks brought home. This matters for sleep because anxiety and rumination are among sleep's greatest enemies. When we lie down with our minds churning through unsolvable problems, rehashing conversations that never quite resolve, worrying about futures we cannot control, our nervous systems stay activated. Women processing will gather and talk, creating bonds while creating thread. These are problems that can be addressed through action, through work, through conversation and negotiation. No lying awake, rehearsing tomorrow's meeting, or worrying about an email that might arrive at any moment. The sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight response, remains engaged when it should yield to the parasympathetic system that promotes rest and digestion and healing. As afternoon moves toward evening, the quality of work often shifts. The heaviest physical labor happens in the morning and early afternoon when energy is highest. As the day wears on, tasks become less strenuous. This isn't laziness. It's an intuitive understanding of human energy cycles. We're not designed to maintain constant high output from dawn to dusk. In summer, when daylight extends for 20 hours or more high latitudes, there might be an afternoon period when activity slows considerably. Not sleep necessarily, but rest. Sitting in shade if the day is warm. Quiet conversation. Less demanding tasks. The Vikings, with their more immediate and concrete concerns, likely experienced less of this counterproductive mental churning. Problems could be solved or at least addressed. Worries could be discussed with the community and shared. When the day ended, it was truly done. We function better with rhythms of exertion and recovery, harder work and lighter work flowing into each other. This honors the natural ultradian rhythms present in human physiology, the roughly 90-minute cycles of higher and lower energy that pulse through our days, whether we acknowledge them or not. Modern productivity culture demands constant output. We're supposed to maintain the same pace hour after hour, pushing through fatigue with coffee, ignoring our body's signals for rest. The Vikings worked when energy was high and rested when it naturally ebbed. They honored the body's rhythms rather than fighting them. Animals must be secured for the night, protected from predators and cold. The fire needs building up for the coming darkness. The evening meal requires preparation, and this meal is often the most substantial and social of the day. People gather after their separate labors. They share food and company. Stories are told. News is exchanged. Gossip and laughter weave through conversation. As afternoon becomes evening, the light begins its change. In summer, this transition is extraordinarily long. The sun takes hours to make its lazy descent, barely touching the horizon before beginning its climb again. In winter, darkness comes more quickly, but even then it's gradual. Not the abrupt switching off of electric lights. A process, not an event. And activities shift in response. The evening meal itself deserves attention for its effects on sleep. The Vikings typically ate their main meal in the evening, after work was complete. Substantial, providing calories needed to recover from physical labor and maintain warmth through the night. Protein from fish or meat when available. Fats from dairy or animal sources. Carbohydrates from grains and root vegetables. This social connection, this sense of belonging and community, provides emotional nourishment as real as the physical nourishment of the meal. This combination, eaten several hours before sleep, provided sustained energy without the blood sugar spikes and crashes that disrupt rest. Compare this with modern patterns. Irregular eating throughout the day. Large meals late in the evening, shortly before attempting sleep. Or going to bed hungry after inadequate nutrition. The disruption to sleep from these patterns is significant but often unrecognized. The protein ensured availability of amino acids needed for neurotransmitter production, including tryptophan, which converts to serotonin and then melatonin. The fats slowed digestion, preventing nighttime hunger that might interrupt sleep. And the timing, with several hours between eating and lying down, allowed initial digestion to occur, reducing risk of reflux or discomfort. After the meal, as fire burns and darkness deepens outside, the social time continues. This is when stories are told. The oral traditions that preserved history and culture flow from elders to younger listeners. Tales of gods and heroes, of voyages and battles, of ancestors and their deeds. These stories serve multiple purposes. They educate and entertain. The storytelling voice has a quality not unlike a lullaby. The listeners know the general shape of familiar tales, so there's no anxious anticipation. The rhythm of the language, the formulaic phrases repeated in different stories, create a hypnotic effect. Mind can drift with the narrative without active analysis. There's no abrupt shift from full wakefulness to attempting sleep. No one is engaged in stimulating activities right up until bedtime. Instead, evening winds down naturally. Activities become quieter, less demanding. Perhaps someone works at a simple task requiring little thought. Perhaps people simply sit, watching the fire, minds wandering. The Vikings, eating according to natural hunger and the rhythm of their work, created meal timing that supported rather than undermined their rest. They reinforced cultural values and social bonds. And they also, in their rhythmic telling, begin to prepare minds and bodies for sleep. And gradually, imperceptibly, this social activity transitions the household towards sleep. This gradual dimming is crucial for sleep preparation. As light levels decrease, the human brain increases production of melatonin. But this process requires genuine darkness or at least substantial dimming. In modern environments, we maintain bright lighting until bedtime, then expose ourselves to blue spectrum light from screens. The Vikings, with only fire and simple oil lamps for evening light, experienced natural dimming that perfectly supported their biology. As evening progressed, as light gradually decreased, their brains received clear signals that night was coming, that sleep should approach. Melatonin levels rose. Core body temperature began the slight decrease that facilitates sleep onset. The lighting grows dimmer as the fire burns lower and oil lamps are extinguished one by one. Melatonin production is suppressed exactly when it should increase. We wonder why we don't feel sleepy, why we lie awake even though the clock says it's time to sleep. The nervous system shifted from the activation of the sympathetic branch toward the calming dominance of the parasympathetic branch. The fire crackles lower. Voices quiet. One by one, people make their way to the sleeping platforms along the longhouse walls. The furs and woolen blankets wait, familiar and welcoming. Bodies settle into spaces they've slept in countless times before. Children nestle against parents. The breathing of those already asleep creates a gentle rhythm in the darkness. The longhouse itself is a vessel designed for living, and part of that living is sleeping well. Walk through one on a winter evening and you'll understand. The exterior walls are thick timber, split logs, or planks, depending on local practice and available materials. In many cases, turf or sod supplements the wood, creating barriers against bitter northern cold. By the time people began settling into their sleeping spaces, they were genuinely ready for rest. Not fighting biology, trying to force sleep when bodies were still in daytime mode. Instead, working with natural rhythms, allowing sleep to arrive as it was designed to, as a natural transition rather than a forced state change. And sleep, when it comes easily. Step through the doorway from cold night air into the longhouse interior. The first sensation is warmth. The long central fire, burning in a hearth that runs much of the building's length, fills the space with heat. But this isn't the dry, forced air of modern systems. This combination of materials provides substantial insulation, a boundary between the harsh world outside and the protected space within. This is radiant warmth from burning wood, carrying the scent of smoke, of burning timber, of oils and resins releasing their aromatic compounds. The smell is acrid and somehow comforting at once. This is what safety smells like. What home smells like. The human body needs to decrease its core temperature by a degree or two to initiate and maintain sleep. In modern homes kept at constant temperatures, bedrooms are often too warm and bodies struggle to achieve necessary cooling. Or they're made too cold, requiring heavy blankets that can cause overheating during the night. The longhouse, with its temperature gradient, allowed individuals to position themselves in zones that suited their personal thermal needs. Someone who sleeps hot might position their sleeping space further from the fire. Someone who feels cold more acutely might sleep closer to warmth. The temperature inside isn't uniform, and this matters more than it might seem. Near the fire, the air is warm, even hot. Further away, particularly toward the walls and sleeping areas, the temperature is cooler. This temperature gradient supports better sleep than our modern preference for uniform controlled temperatures. The sleeping arrangements varied with wealth and status, but common features emerge. Sleeping platforms or benches ran along the walls, raised above the earthen or wooden floor. These platforms served multiple purposes during the day, providing seating for work and socializing. At night, they became beds. The elevation matters. Heat rises, so sleeping on a raised platform positions the sleeper in warmer air than would be found at floor level. Crucial in cold northern winters, protecting sleepers from the coldest air that settled at ground level. Additionally, the platform creates a defined sleeping space, a location specifically associated with rest. Modern sleep science emphasizes using the bed only for sleep and intimacy, not for work or other wakeful activities. This creates a strong mental association between bed and sleep, so simply lying down in that space begins to trigger drowsiness. And the overall cooling of the longhouse during the night, as the fire burned lower, supported the natural decrease in core body temperature that deepened sleep. Furs and woolen blankets, sometimes stuffed mattresses filled with straw or feathers, provided cushioning and warmth. This association, reinforced night after night, trains the brain to recognize this space as the place where sleep occurs. The Vikings used their sleeping platforms throughout the day for other activities. Yes, but the transformation of the space at night, the addition of bedding, and the change from sitting to lying down created enough distinction to maintain the association between this space and sleep. The weight of fur blankets and multiple wool layers also provides gentle pressure across the body. We know now that this kind of deep pressure touch calms the nervous system, similar to the effect of swaddling on infants. Weighted blankets are marketed specifically for sleep improvement now, replicating this effect. The bedding deserves closer examination. Woolen blankets and furs provide insulation while remaining breathable. Unlike synthetic materials that trap moisture and create uncomfortable dampness, natural fibers wick moisture away from the body and allow air circulation. This prevents the clammy feeling that can disrupt sleep and maintains a comfortable microclimate around the sleeping body. Privacy in a longhouse was limited by modern standards. Multiple family members, sometimes unrelated household members, all sleeping in the same large room. Yet this arrangement likely had neutral or even positive effects on sleep. Humans are social creatures. For most of our evolutionary history, we slept in groups. Consider a mother lying down to sleep with her children nestled nearby, able to hear their breathing, to reach out and touch them if needed. The sense of security this provides, the absence of anxiety about whether the children are safe, supports relaxation and sleep in ways that modern practice of isolating children in separate rooms, sometimes far from parents, often does not. The Vikings, using heavy furs out of necessity for warmth, gained this additional sleep benefit without knowing why it worked. The presence of other sleeping individuals, the sound of their breathing, the sense of being surrounded by community can be deeply reassuring at a subconscious level. There can be disruptions when many people sleep in one space, disturbances from snoring or restless nights. But in general, the social sleeping arrangement likely felt natural and secure in ways that modern isolated sleeping sometimes doesn't. The sounds that do penetrate are mostly natural and rhythmic. The crackling of the fire provides an irregular but soothing backdrop. The breathing of other sleepers, the occasional settling sound of the wooden structure. These create what we would now call pink noise, a type of sound that actually supports sleep by masking more disruptive noises and providing consistent audio environment. The acoustic environment merits consideration. The thick wooden and turf walls provide substantial sound dampening from outside noises. A winter storm might rage beyond the walls, wind howling and snow driving, but inside the sounds are muffled, distant. The longhouse becomes a cocoon of relative quiet, protected from the harsh world. The darkness inside a longhouse at night is substantial, particularly in winter when the fire is burned low. Unlike modern homes where light pollution from streetlights, LED indicators from electronics, and other sources create perpetual dim illumination, the longhouse at night becomes genuinely dark. This deep darkness is essential for melatonin production and sleep quality. In summer, the challenge differs. At high latitudes, the summer sun barely sets. Even at midnight, there may be significant twilight. The longhouse design addresses this through relatively small window openings that can be covered with shutters or stretched animal membranes. During summer, when maintaining darkness might be desirable despite the midnight sun, these coverings can be deployed. Modern sleep researchers recommend pink noise or white noise machines for exactly this purpose. The Vikings experienced it naturally. Even small amounts of light during sleep can suppress melatonin, lighten sleep stages, and reduce sleep quality. The Vikings, sleeping in true darkness, avoided this problem entirely. The air quality in a longhouse affects sleep. Smoke from the central fire, while largely vented through roof openings, does permeate the space to some degree. You might assume this would be detrimental, and excessive smoke certainly would be. But the Vikings became skilled at managing their fires to minimize problematic smoke while maintaining warmth. When ventilation and light are needed, they can be opened. The inhabitants have control over light exposure in ways that align with their sleep needs. More importantly, the longhouse air, while perhaps containing traces of wood smoke, was free of the volatile organic compounds that off-gas from modern furnishings, carpets, paints, and plastics. Free of chemical fragrances from cleaning products, air fresheners, and personal care products. The wood used was carefully selected and properly dried. The fire was tended to burn efficiently, and the small amount of smoke that remained in the air may have had mild calming effects. Certain woods, when burned, release compounds that can have subtle relaxing properties. The longhouse air was also relatively humid compared to modern heated homes. The breathing of multiple people, the moisture from cooking and other activities, the earth floor in some longhouses. The air might carry the scent of wool, of the oil lamps, of the human bodies sleeping in the space. But these are natural odors that humans have coexisted with throughout our evolutionary history. The chemical soup that modern humans breathe in our homes, particularly in newer, tightly sealed buildings, is a recent development, one that may affect sleep in ways we're only beginning to understand. Ventilation, even in winter, was maintained through the roof opening and small gaps in the construction that we might view as imperfect, but which serve the important function of air exchange. Fresh air entered. Stale air departed. All these contributed moisture to the air, preventing the extreme dryness that modern heating systems create, the kind of dryness that irritates throats and nasal passages, causing discomfort that disrupts sleep. The Vikings likely rarely experienced the parched throat upon waking that's common in modern, centrally heated homes. The sleeping platforms along the walls, with the central fire between them, created natural separation between sleeping individuals while maintaining the communal nature of the space. Families might share a section of platform. Parents and young children cluster together, while other household members occupied their own areas. Some longhouses, particularly those of wealthy households, included separate smaller rooms at the ends or sides of the main hall. These might serve as storage during the day, but could also provide sleeping spaces for the household heads, offering more privacy and perhaps more quiet than the main hall. Carbon dioxide levels never build up to the levels that can occur in modern, tightly sealed bedrooms, where poor ventilation can lead to CO2 concentrations high enough to affect sleep quality and cognitive function. This balanced the need for social connection with the practical reality that people shift and move during sleep and need space to do so without constantly disturbing others. The orientation of longhouses followed practical considerations related to wind direction, sun exposure, and the settlement layout. But these practical considerations inadvertently created conditions supportive of sleep. A longhouse positioned to minimize wind exposure would be quieter inside. This architectural flexibility allowed for individual variation in sleep needs and preferences while maintaining the overall communal structure. The materials used, the timber, one oriented to receive morning sun, would gradually warm as dawn approached, potentially supporting natural waking. These weren't intentional sleep optimization strategies, but practical building decisions that nevertheless aligned with good sleep practices. The longhouse also provided protection from one of sleep's greatest enemies, unpredictable threat. The sturdy walls and door that could be barred from inside created physical security. The presence of the community of multiple people who would wake if danger approached provided social security. This sense of safety, so fundamental yet so easily overlooked, is absolutely essential for deep sleep. Whether this quality has measurable effects on sleep is difficult to determine, but the subjective experience of sleeping in a space made entirely of natural materials does differ from sleeping in modern construction of drywall and synthetic materials. Many people report feeling more rested in natural environments. Modern humans often struggle with safety signals. We may lie in perfectly secure homes, yet our nervous systems remain activated by abstract fears, by anxieties about distant problems, by constant low-level threat signals we absorb from news media and social networks. As night deepens in a longhouse, as inhabitants settle into their sleeping spaces one by one, the building itself seems to quiet. The fire burns lower, its light dim and flickering. The sounds of evening conversation fade to whispers and then to silence. The breathing of sleepers gradually synchronizes into a collective rhythm. The nervous system cannot fully relax, cannot enter the deepest stages of restorative sleep unless it receives signals that the environment is safe. The Vikings, with more immediate and concrete threats, nevertheless may have felt more genuinely secure in their sleeping spaces because those spaces were demonstrably physically protective and because they were surrounded by their community. The longhouse becomes what it was designed to be, a sanctuary from the northern night, a place where bodies can rest and restore themselves for the work of another day. One of the most remarkable aspects of Viking sleep, one that seems strange to modern minds, is the practice of sleeping in two distinct periods, not one consolidated block through the night, as we assume to be natural and normal, but two separate sleeps with a wakeful interval between. Outside, the wind might howl, snow might drive against the walls, waves might crash against cliffs in the darkness. But inside, warmth and safety, Inside, the slow breath of sleep. Inside, the deep rest that comes when every element of environment and behavior aligns to support what the body needs most. People spoke of first sleep and second sleep as distinct periods. They referred to the time after first sleep, the midnight hours of wakefulness, with specific terms indicating this was normal and expected. Historians call this biphasic or segmented sleep, and once scholars began looking for it, references appeared throughout historical records. Court depositions from medieval Europe, when asking about the timing of nighttime events, would specify whether something occurred before first sleep, after first sleep, or during the watch between sleeps. For the Vikings, though written records are fewer, the saga literature and later evidence suggest similar patterns. This first waking was not an unwelcome disruption, but an expected transition. People would remain in their sleeping spaces or move quietly about the longhouse. They might tend a fire, adding wood to ensure continued warmth through the remainder of the night. They might lie in the darkness, thinking, reflecting on the day past, or planning for the day to come. People would retire to their sleeping spaces as darkness fell, perhaps an hour or two after sunset, depending on the season. They would sleep for approximately 4 hours, carrying them through the early part of the night. Then they would wake naturally, without alarm or external prompting. The midnight period of wakefulness typically lasted 1 to 2 hours. During this time, some people might pray or meditate, activities particularly documented in Christian medieval Europe, but likely present in other forms in pagan Viking culture. The quiet, dark hours between the two sleeps offered a unique mental state. Not quite the sharp alertness of daytime, not the unconsciousness of sleep. Dreams from the first sleep period were often particularly vivid and memorable. Waking after first sleep, while dream content was still fresh, allowed for reflection on these dreams in the quiet midnight hours. In Viking culture, dreams were significant, sometimes prophetic, often meaningful. The saga literature is filled with portentous dreams that predict future events or provide guidance. Couples might talk quietly, sharing thoughts and feelings in the privacy of the dark night when daytime social pressures were absent. This was a time for intimacy, both physical and emotional. Something in between, a kind of relaxed, reflective wakefulness that many people found conducive to insight and creativity. Modern sleep science, when it first rediscovered the historical prevalence of biphasic sleep through the work of historians, initially viewed it with skepticism. Surely consolidated sleep was more natural, more restorative, but further research provided a more nuanced understanding. The midnight waking period, when a mind was still close to the dream state yet conscious enough to process and remember, was ideal for engaging with dream content, for seeking to understand the messages the sleeping mind had produced. The sleep architecture during these two periods differs in interesting ways. The first sleep tends to be rich in deep, slow-wave sleep, the most physically restorative stages. The body accomplishes much of its physical repair and restoration during this first period. Growth hormone is released. Tissues are repaired. The immune system is strengthened. The second sleep, after the midnight wakeful period, tends to be lighter overall and contains a higher proportion of REM sleep, the stage associated with dreaming, memory consolidation, and emotional processing. During this second sleep period, the brain is doing much of its psychological maintenance, integrating the experiences of the previous day, consolidating memories, processing emotions. When people are removed from artificial lighting and allowed to sleep according to natural rhythms, With only firelight in the evenings and true darkness at night, many naturally fall into a biphasic pattern, especially during long winter nights when darkness extends for 12 or more hours. This deep sleep serves the crucial function of physical maintenance. The wakeful period between the two sleeps also serves important functions. It provides a natural opportunity to urinate, preventing the sleep disruption that can occur when the bladder fills during a long, uninterrupted sleep period. In contemporary culture, waking at 2 or 3 in the morning is perceived as a problem, a sign that something is wrong. This perception itself creates anxiety, which activates the stress response, which makes it harder to return to sleep, creating a vicious cycle. Engaging in a mental housekeeping is essential for psychological health. It allows for position changes, stretching, adjusting of bedding, addressing minor discomforts that might otherwise accumulate and cause more significant sleep disruption. And psychologically, it prevents the anxiety that many modern insomniacs experience when they wake during the night. The Vikings, expecting to wake between their first and second sleep, experienced no such anxiety. The midnight waking was normal, natural, even potentially pleasant. There was no spike of stress hormones, no worried thoughts about not getting enough sleep. After an hour or so of quiet wakefulness, drowsiness would naturally return and the second sleep would begin. During the midnight waking period in the longhouse, the atmosphere would be peaceful, almost sacred. The darkness broken only by the dim glow of the banked fire. The silence punctuated only by the breathing of those still in their first sleep or already into their second. This created a space unlike any other time of day. A private time, a solitary or intimately shared time. The middle of the night waking, which might be a perfectly natural transition between sleep periods, becomes a source of stress and a genuine sleep problem because of our expectation that we should sleep continuously through the night. This relaxed attitude toward the wakeful period likely made it easier to transition back into sleep, creating a self-reinforcing pattern of healthy biphasic rest. Some people might use this time for quiet activity. A woman might rock a wakeful infant, soothing the baby back to sleep while the regular motion and soft humming served to ready her own body for second sleep as well. A man might carve a piece of wood by the firelight, hands busy with familiar work while the mind wandered and processed recent days. The content of thoughts during this midnight period often differed from daytime thinking. Without the immediate demands of active life, without the social performance required during waking hours, the mind could wander into more reflective, sometimes more creative territory. Problems that seemed intractable during the day might appear in new light during the quiet midnight hours. This midnight reflective period may have served a function similar to what we now seek through meditation and mindfulness practices. It was a time of being rather than doing, of observing thoughts rather than being driven by them, free from the social demands and activities of day or evening. Elderly members of the household, for whom sleep often comes in shorter segments, might sit by the fire, guardians of the flame and the sleeping household. Decisions could be contemplated without pressure. The self could be examined without the distortions that social interaction sometimes imposes. The return to sleep after the midnight waking followed a gentle, natural pattern. As the wakeful period extended, drowsiness would gradually return. Eyes would grow heavy again. Thoughts would begin to drift and fragment in the way that signals approaching sleep. The person would settle back into their sleeping position, arrange their furs and blankets, and allow sleep to return. In our modern world, we've lost this natural contemplative period, filling our evenings with stimulation right up until we attempt to force immediate sleep, then expecting to sleep continuously until morning alarms demand instant wakefulness. We've squeezed out the quiet, reflective time that might serve our psychological health. The second sleep would often last 3 to 4 hours, carrying the household through to the natural waking time around dawn. This sleep, as mentioned, was different in quality from the first, lighter and more dream-filled. People might shift positions more frequently, might be more easily roused by sounds, yet still getting valuable rest, because the sleep drive had been partially satisfied by the first sleep, but not exhausted, and because several hours remained before dawn, the body was ready for more rest. The REM sleep that predominated in this period served essential cognitive and emotional functions, even if it wasn't the deep unconscious state of the first sleep. Seasonal variation in sleep patterns was also significant. During the summer months, when darkness was brief or nearly absent at high latitudes, the biphasic pattern might compress or even shift to a more monophasic pattern with a single shorter sleep period at night supplemented by daytime rest. Children, with their greater need for total sleep time, might not fully wake between the sleep periods, or might wake only briefly before drifting back into continuous sleep. The flexibility of the biphasic pattern allowed for individual variation based on age, health, and personal constitution. There was no rigid schedule demanding that everyone follow exactly the same pattern. But in winter, when darkness extended for the majority of each 24-hour period, the biphasic sleep pattern expanded. People might spend 12 or even 14 hours in bed, alternating between sleep and quiet wakefulness. This wasn't laziness, but a sensible adaptation to an environment where outdoor work was limited by darkness and cold. The Viking understanding of these seasonal variations, while not scientific in the modern sense, was sophisticated in its practical application. They recognized that summer was the time for activity, for voyages and raiding and trading, for growing crops and building and accomplishing the work that required long days. Winter was the time for rest, for indoor crafts. The long daylight hours of summer were valuable for work, for travel, for activities that could only be accomplished when the earth wasn't frozen and the seas were navigable. The extended rest periods allowed for physical conservation of energy, for healing and restoration, for the kind of deep rest that winter invites. This seasonal variation in activity and rest aligns with patterns observed in other animals and likely reflects deep biological programming in humans as well. We're not designed to maintain constant levels of activity year-round, yet modern culture demands exactly that. We work the same hours in December as in June, maintain the same schedules regardless of season. The stories told during the evening hours before first sleep often continued in the minds of listeners during the midnight wakeful period and into the dreams of second sleep. A particularly vivid saga, recounted by the fire, might be revisited mentally during the quiet midnight hours, its themes and images processed and integrated. For storytelling and social connection, for allowing the body to restore itself in preparation for the next cycle of summer activity, and wonder why we feel exhausted and depleted as winter deepens. The Vikings, living closer to natural rhythms, honored the seasonal need for increased rest during the dark months. This interplay between story, contemplation, and dream created a rich inner life. The boundaries between external narrative, conscious reflection, and unconscious processing were more fluid than in our modern experience, where we often rigidly separate these domains. The midnight period between sleeps was also a time when the boundary between the human and spirit worlds was considered thinnest in Norse belief. The darkness, the stillness, the altered state of consciousness between sleeps, all created conditions where encounters with the supernatural seemed more possible. Then these elements might appear transformed in the dreams of second sleep, woven into the personal symbolism and concerns of the dreamer. The Vikings live in a world where stories and dreams and waking life all informed and interpenetrated each other, creating a holistic experience of consciousness that we've largely lost. This sense of the numinous, of connection to something beyond the ordinary material world, likely contributed to the psychological richness of the sleep period. Sleep wasn't merely a biological necessity, but an entry into a different realm of experience. As the second sleep drew toward its natural conclusion, as dawn approached and the household prepared to wake into a new day, the cycle of rest was complete. The body had accomplished its physical restoration during the deep sleep of the first period. The mind had processed experiences and emotions during the dream-rich second sleep. Whether one believes in literal spirits or understands these experiences as products of the liminal mental state, the perception shaped the experience of the midnight hours. The respect and even reverence accorded to sleep and dreams elevated these states beyond mere physiological processes, investing them with meaning and significance that may itself have contributed to their restorative power. The midnight interval had provided contemplative space for reflection and integration. The complete pattern of biphasic sleep had served all the varied needs that sleep must fulfill for human health and functioning. The foundation was built on whole, unprocessed foods obtained directly from their environment. Fish caught from the cold northern seas provided high-quality protein and fats, particularly the omega-3 fatty acids that modern research has linked to improved sleep quality and reduced sleep disturbances. The relationship between diet and sleep is woven through with complexity, involving not just what is eaten, but when and in what combinations. The Viking diet, shaped by the constraints of their environment and the rhythms of their agricultural and maritime activities, created conditions that supported healthy sleep in multiple ways. The protein from fish and, when available, from meat of cattle, sheep, pigs, and wild game, provided the amino acids necessary for neurotransmitter production. Tryptophan, the amino acid precursor to serotonin and melatonin, was abundant in the Viking diet. The fats in the Viking diet came from fish, from dairy products, and from the animals they raised. These were natural fats, not the industrially processed and chemically altered fats that dominate modern diets. The omega-3 fatty acids from fish supported healthy sleep. Herring, cod, salmon, and other species consumed fresh when available and preserved through drying or smoking for winter stores. Unlike modern populations who sometimes consume inadequate protein or obtain it primarily from processed sources, the Vikings ate substantial amounts of high-quality, complete proteins containing all essential amino acids in the proper proportions for human needs. Carbohydrates came primarily from barley, oats, and rye, grains well suited to northern climates, consumed as porridges, flatbreads, and simple preparations that maintain the whole grain structure. Unlike refined grains, whole grains release their sugars slowly into the bloodstream, preventing the spikes and crashes in blood glucose that can disrupt sleep. The saturated fats from dairy and meat, contrary to misguided modern demonization, serve important functions, including hormone production. Many hormones involved in sleep regulation, including melatonin, are synthesized from cholesterol and fat-soluble precursors. A diet adequate in healthy fats supports the production of these sleep-regulating hormones. Vegetables and fruits were consumed when available, with preservation through drying or other methods allowing some variety through winter. Root vegetables like turnips and onions could be stored through the cold months. Berries were dried for later use. Nuts, particularly hazelnuts, provided additional healthy fats and proteins. The fermentation of foods, including dairy products like skyr and possibly some vegetables, introduced beneficial bacteria into the diet. These probiotic organisms support gut health, and emerging research suggests that the gut microbiome plays a significant role in sleep regulation. The bacteria in our digestive systems produce neurotransmitter precursors and even some neurotransmitters directly. The fiber in whole grains also supports digestive health and feeds beneficial gut bacteria. We know now that gut health significantly affects sleep quality through complex mechanisms involving the gut-brain axis. While the variety of plant foods was more limited than in warmer climates, what was consumed was nutrient-dense and supported overall health, including the micronutrient needs for sleep. They influence inflammation levels throughout the body. They affect the production of sleep-regulating hormones. The Vikings, consuming naturally fermented foods as part of their regular diet, were supporting their gut microbiomes in ways that likely benefited their sleep. A light midday meal or snack might be consumed during a break from work, but the largest meal of the day came in the evening after the day's labor was complete. This evening meal was substantial, providing the calories and nutrients needed for recovery and overnight restoration. The timing of meals followed patterns dictated by work rhythms and daylight availability. A simple morning meal, often porridge or leftover items from the previous evening, provided fuel for the early part of the day without being so heavy as to induce lethargy. This meal was typically consumed shortly after waking, when natural cortisol levels are highest and the body is primed for energy intake. This eating pattern, with the largest meal in the evening but still allowing time before sleep, aligns well with what sleep research suggests is optimal. Eating too close to bedtime can cause discomfort and reflux that disrupts sleep, but go to bed hungry can also cause sleep disruption. The composition of the evening meal also supported sleep. The combination of protein, fat, and carbohydrates provided sustained energy release through the night, preventing the blood sugar drops that can cause midnight waking. The tryptophan from protein, consumed with carbohydrates, is more effectively transported into the brain to be converted to serotonin and melatonin. The timing of this meal, several hours before sleep, allowed for initial digestion while still providing sustained energy through the night. The Viking pattern of a substantial evening meal consumed while still active, followed by several hours of social activity and gradual winding down before sleep, threads this needle effectively. Alcohol consumption among Vikings is well documented, with mead and beer being produced and consumed socially. The effects of alcohol on sleep are complex and often misunderstood. While alcohol can induce drowsiness and may help with initial sleep onset, it significantly disrupts sleep architecture, reducing REM sleep and causing more frequent awakenings in the latter part of the night. The social consumption of alcoholic beverages in the evening, as part of communal gatherings and storytelling, probably involved moderate amounts by most people most of the time, with heavier drinking reserved for special occasions and festivals. The lower alcohol content meant that even several servings wouldn't result in the blood alcohol levels associated with significant sleep disruption. The fats slow the overall digestive process, extending the release of nutrients and energy. However, the alcohol content of Viking-era mead and beer was generally lower than modern beverages, and consumption patterns may have differed from modern heavy drinking. It's also worth noting that complete abstinence was certainly practiced by some individuals, particularly those who had observed the negative effects of excessive consumption. The Vikings were practical people. While their culture included drinking, it also recognized and sometimes celebrated moderation. And the timing, with drinking occurring in the earlier part of the evening rather than immediately before bed, allowed for metabolism of the alcohol before sleep. The value placed on self-control and effective functioning would have discouraged truly problematic drinking in most individuals. The seasonal variation in diet also affected sleep in interesting ways. Summer provided more variety and abundance, with fresh vegetables, fruits, and more readily available protein from fishing and hunting. Winter diets were more limited, relying heavily on preserved foods, dried fish and meat, stored grains, and dairy product from livestock that could be maintained through the cold months. The modern concept of eating disorders and disorder relationships with food was largely absent from Viking culture. Food was sustenance, fuel for life and work, a source of social pleasure when shared in community. There was no obsessive calorie counting, no moral judgments about food choices, no diet industry creating confusion and anxiety. These seasonal dietary shifts aligned with seasonal activity levels and sleep needs. The richer summer diet supported the higher energy demands of summer work. The winter diet, while more monotonous, was adequate for the reduced activity levels of the dark months, and included the fats and proteins necessary for maintaining body heat and supporting the extended sleep periods of winter. People ate what was available in quantities that satisfied hunger and supported their activities. The physical act of eating was also different. Food required more chewing, more oral processing than our modern soft processed diets. The jaw work involved in eating tough dried fish or coarse whole grain bread provided a kind of low-level exercise that strengthened jaw muscles and may have reduced the risk of sleep apnea, a condition where weakened throat and jaw muscles allow airway collapse during sleep. This uncomplicated relationship with food, free from the psychological baggage that modern people often carry around eating, likely contributed to better sleep. Anxiety about food, guilt over eating choices, worry about body image. All these mental burdens can interfere with the relaxation necessary for sleep. The Vikings, eating without such complications, avoided this source of sleep disruption. Mealtimes were also social times, opportunities for the community to gather and strengthen bonds. The psychosocial benefits of regular shared meals, the sense of belonging and connection they create, support mental health in ways that indirectly benefit sleep. Loneliness and social isolation are risk factors for sleep problems. The gratitude for food, while perhaps not formalized in prayers or rituals in the way some cultures practiced, was nevertheless present in the recognition that food came through hard work and sometimes unpredictable fortune. While we have no way to know the actual prevalence of sleep apnea among Vikings, their diet likely provided some protection against this increasingly common modern sleep disorder. The Vikings, with their communal eating patterns and strong social structures, experienced less of this isolation. The link between physical labor and appetite also created a natural regulation of food intake. People who have worked hard physically feel genuine hunger and eat accordingly. Those with lighter work days feel less hunger. This natural regulation, responsive to actual energy expenditure, maintains healthy body weight without conscious effort. The understanding that food was precious, that hunger was a real possibility if harvest failed or preservation was inadequate, created an appreciation that modern people, with our unprecedented food abundance, often lack. This appreciation, this absence of taking food for granted, may have contributed to a more mindful approach to eating that supported better digestion and sleep. Maintaining healthy body weight, in turn, supports better sleep. Obesity is a significant risk factor for sleep apnea and various other sleep disruptions. While some Vikings certainly carried more body fat than others, depending on constitution and status, the general population engaged in enough physical labor and had limited enough food abundance that obesity, in a modern sense, was rare. The absence of caffeine and other strong stimulants in the Viking diet is also significant. While various herbs and plants were known and used, the Vikings lacked access to coffee, tea, chocolate, and the other caffeinated substances that modern people consume, often in large quantities. The Vikings, with their physically demanding lives, likely experienced strong, appropriate appetite signals and ate in response to genuine metabolic needs rather than the complex emotional and environmental cues that drive much modern eating. This provided another protective factor for sleep quality. Caffeine blocks adenosine receptors, interfering with the natural buildup of sleep pressure that should accumulate across the day and evening. It has a half-life of several hours, meaning that afternoon or evening consumption can interfere with nighttime sleep even when the person doesn't feel subjectively stimulated. Similarly, the absence of refined sugar in significant quantities meant avoiding the energy crashes and metabolic disruptions that high sugar consumption creates. While honey was available and valued, it was relatively scarce and used sparingly. The Vikings, free from caffeine, experienced the natural rhythm of adenosine accumulation and the drowsiness it produces as evening approached. They didn't artificially prop themselves up with stimulants, then struggle to sleep despite being exhausted. Their natural sleep-wake systems functioned without chemical interference. The overall nutritional adequacy of the Viking diet, despite its simplicity by modern standards, deserves recognition. While deficiencies certainly occurred, particularly late in winter when stores ran low, the diet generally provided adequate calories, protein, fats, and micronutrients for health. The Viking diet wasn't characterized by the wild blood sugar swings that modern high-sugar diets produce, swings that can disrupt sleep both through nighttime hypoglycemia and through the more general metabolic dysfunction that chronic high-sugar intake creates. The connection between food and community also reinforced social rhythms that supported sleep. The evening meal was a gathering point, a time when the household or larger community came together. This regular social synchronization, everyone sharing food at roughly the same time, helped align individual circadian rhythms with the group. The simple act of eating together, of breaking bread in community, created bonds that supported psychological well-being. The laughter and conversation that accompanied meals. The sense of being part of something larger than oneself. The security of knowing you belong to a group that would share its resources. Severe nutritional deficiencies can disrupt sleep in various ways. But the Vikings, when food was adequate, consumed a balanced diet that supported healthy sleep. Social zeitgebers, the time-giving cues from social activity, are important for maintaining healthy sleep-wake cycles. The Viking pattern of communal evening meals provided this synchronizing influence. Perhaps no factor shaped Viking sleep patterns more profoundly than the dramatic seasonal variation in daylight at northern latitudes. In the lands the Vikings inhabited, roughly between 55 and 70 degrees north latitude, the tilt of Earth's axis creates extreme differences between summer and winter day length. Begin in the depth of winter, during the weeks surrounding the winter solstice in late December. At these northern latitudes, particularly in the furthest north settlements, the sun may barely rise above the horizon for a few hours each day, or at the most extreme latitudes, may not rise at all for weeks. All of this contributed to the kind of emotional stability and social connectedness that allows for truly restful sleep. Understanding how the Vikings adapted to these variations provides insight into the flexibility of human sleep regulation and the importance of light exposure for healthy rest. The landscape exists in perpetual twilight or darkness, lit only by moon and stars when the sky is clear, or shrouded in complete darkness under cloud cover. The Viking response to this winter darkness was fundamentally different from the modern approach. Today, we use artificial lighting to maintain summer-like light exposure even in the darkest months, forcing ourselves to remain alert and active regardless of natural light conditions. We fight against the darkness, often at considerable physiological cost. This darkness profoundly affects human biology. The pineal gland, responding to the absence of light signals reaching the eyes, produces melatonin not just in the evening, but throughout much of the day. The distinction between day and night, normally so sharp in equatorial regions, becomes blurred. The body receives signals that it's time for rest during what would normally be daytime hours. Winter was a time of reduced activity. While essential tasks still needed accomplishing, caring for livestock, maintaining the household, preparing food, the overall pace of life slowed dramatically. There were no crops to tend, no voyages to undertake, limited outdoor work of any kind. Instead, winter was a time for indoor crafts, for storytelling and social activity within the longhouse. The extended darkness allowed for extended sleep. People might remain in bed for 12 or even 14 hours during the darkest weeks of winter. This wasn't continuous sleep, but rather alternating periods of sleep and quiet rest. The biphasic pattern expanded and elongated. This winter sleep pattern aligns with what we observe in other animals at northern latitudes. Many species enter true hibernation, dramatically reducing metabolism and sleeping for months. Others, while remaining active, show reduced activity levels and increased rest during winter. The Vikings, lacking artificial lighting beyond simple flames, couldn't and didn't attempt this fight. Instead, they accepted and adapted to the winter darkness for rest and restoration. The body, receiving signals of darkness for so much of each 24-hour period, naturally inclined toward rest and conservation. The Vikings, following these natural inclinations, obtained the extended rest that winter invited. The physiological benefits of this seasonal rest variation are significant. Winter sleep allows for deep restoration, for healing from injuries or illnesses that may have been sustained during the active summer months. Humans, while not hibernators, nevertheless show some of the same tendencies when allowed to respond naturally to seasonal light variation. Modern studies of people living in natural conditions without artificial light show increased sleep duration in winter, sometimes by an hour or more per night compared to summer. The winter darkness also created a unique psychological experience, the long hours of darkness, of firelight and shadow, of stories told and dreams experienced, had a quality unlike any other time of year. The boundaries between waking and sleeping, between conscious and unconscious, between the ordinary world and the realm of myth and spirits, all became more permeable. This rich inner experience during the dark months may have served important psychological functions. They enforced quietness. The limitation of external stimulation created space for introspection and psychological processing. Issues left unresolved during the busy summer months could be contemplated and integrated. For the kind of thorough cellular repair and immune system strengthening that adequate rest provides. The Vikings emerged from winter rested and restored, ready for the demands of the summer season. Winter was a time when the inner life, the life of imagination and dream, expanded to fill the darkness outside. The psyche could do its own maintenance and reorganization during the long, dark, quiet winter. The lengthening days of late winter and early spring stimulated changes in hormone production and metabolism. Melatonin production began to compress into shorter periods, concentrated in the truly dark hours of night, rather than extending through long twilight periods. Cortisol and other activating hormones responded to the increasing light exposure. Energy levels rose. As winter progressed toward spring, the days gradually lengthened. The sun climbed higher in the sky during its daily arc. Each day brought noticeably more light than the one before. This gradual increase in daylight signaled to the Viking body and mind that the season was changing, that the time of rest was coming to an end, that preparation for renewed activity should begin. The body prepared itself for the work of the coming summer. By the spring equinox, when day and night were of equal length, the Vikings were emerging from winter's rest. Activities increased. Preparation for the farming season began. Boats were readied for fishing and trading voyages. The community stirred to life like the land itself, awakening from winter dormancy. This continuous light presents challenges for sleep. The human circadian system uses the day-night light cycle as its primary timing cue. When that cycle is absent or extremely compressed, the internal clock can drift or become confused. Then came summer, and with it, the opposite extreme of light exposure. During the weeks around the summer solstice, at northern latitudes, the sun barely sets. Even at midnight, the sky may be bright with twilight. At the furthest north, the sun circles the horizon without setting at all, creating 24-hour daylight. The Vikings addressed this challenge through a combination of behavioral adaptations and architectural features. Longhouses had coverings for window openings that could be used to darken the interior when needed during the bright summer nights. These coverings could be deployed to create the darkness necessary for sleep. Modern people living at high latitudes often struggle with sleep during the bright summer nights, particularly if they don't take measures to create artificial darkness. The thick walls also helped exclude light, and sleeping spaces positioned away from openings were naturally darker. This shorter summer sleep duration was sustainable because the demands on the body, while intense, were different from those requiring long recovery periods. The long daylight hours, the warmer temperatures, the abundant food, all created conditions where less sleep was adequate for functioning. Behaviorally, the Vikings adapted by adjusting their sleep timing and duration. Summer sleep was generally shorter than winter sleep, compressed into the few hours of dimmest light around midnight and early morning. The sleep pattern might become more monophasic during summer, with a single consolidated sleep period supplemented by a rest period during the afternoon when the sun was high and hot. The extended summer daylight also had psychological effects. The brightness, the warmth, the activity created a mood elevation that many people experience at northern latitudes during summer. This lighter mood, the sense of possibility and energy, contrasted sharply with the introspective quality of winter. Summer was a time of external focus, of engagement with the world. The timing of sleep during summer might shift later than in winter, with continued light even late in the evening, with warm temperatures making outdoor activity pleasant well into the night hours. The Viking community might remain active until quite late. The Vikings worked hard during summer, but they also ate well, and the work, while physically demanding, was invigorating in ways that winter inactivity wasn't. Of voyages and trade and interaction with distant places. Sleep might not begin until the sun had made its brief dip toward the horizon, which might be 10 or 11 o'clock or even later at high latitudes. Waking would then occur early, with the sun already well risen, but still providing adequate, if abbreviated, sleep. This seasonal flexibility in sleep timing and duration demonstrates the adaptability of human sleep regulation. We're not locked into a single rigid pattern, but can adjust to different conditions while maintaining overall sleep health. The key is that these adjustments happen gradually, in response to natural environmental cues, not abruptly or in defiance of biological signals. Modern humans often fail to honor these seasonal transitions. We maintain the same sleep schedules year-round, the same wake times and bedtimes in December as in June, regardless of the natural light conditions. This rigidity, while perhaps necessary for industrial and commercial schedules, nevertheless places us in conflict with our biological programming. The transitions between seasons, the spring and autumn periods when day length was changing rapidly, were times when Viking sleep patterns underwent their most significant shifts. Each week brought noticeably different light conditions, and sleep timing and duration adjusted accordingly. This gradual transition allowed the body to adapt without the shock that abrupt schedule changes create. The Vikings also experienced the aurora borealis, the northern lights, which appear with some frequency at high latitudes, particularly during autumn and winter. These shimmering curtains of green, red, and purple light dancing across the night sky held deep significance in Norse culture, often interpreted as supernatural phenomena. The fatigue many people experience in winter, the sense of never being quite rested despite adequate sleep hours, may partly reflect this conflict between arbitrary schedules and seasonal sleep needs. The experience of watching the aurora, of witnessing this natural light show in the dark winter night, created moments of awe and wonder that enriched the psychological experience of the dark season. The moon also played a more significant role in Viking life than it does in our electrically illuminated modern world. The full moon, providing substantial illumination during the dark winter months, might allow for continued activity into the evening hours that would otherwise be too dark for safe movement. Whether the aurora had any direct physiological effects on sleep is questionable, but the psychological impact, the sense of witnessing something profound and beautiful, likely contributed to the overall quality of life during the dark months. Beauty, awe, wonder. These experiences nourish the human spirit in ways that support overall well-being, including sleep health. Some research suggests that sleep is affected by lunar phases even when people aren't consciously aware of the moon state. Sleep may be lighter and slightly shorter around the full moon, deeper and longer around the new moon. The Vikings, more attuned to natural cycles, may have been more sensitive to these subtle lunar influences. The lunar cycle, with its 29.5-day rhythm, created a subtle variation in nighttime light exposure that may have influenced sleep patterns in ways we can barely imagine now that we override natural darkness with artificial lighting. The stark beauty of the northern landscape. The endless summer light sparkling on water and illuminating distant mountains. The winter darkness broken by stars and moon and fire created an aesthetic environment that modern people rarely experience. We live in cities where light pollution obscures the stars, where we rarely see true darkness or experience the full intensity of natural light. This connection to natural light rhythms, this seasonal variation in sleep and activity, this flexibility in responding to environmental conditions, all represent an adaptive sophistication that modern rigid schedules lack. The Vikings weren't primitive in their relationship with sleep. They were, in many ways, more advanced than we are. They certainly tracked the moon carefully for purposes of navigation and timekeeping, and they may have noticed its effects on sleep and adjusted their expectations accordingly. The Viking immersion in these natural light conditions, both the abundance of summer and the scarcity of winter, connected them to environmental rhythms in ways we've lost. More in tune with the biological realities of human sleep needs. More willing to adapt to natural conditions rather than forcing nature to conform to arbitrary human demands. Consider sleep pressure, the accumulation of adenosine in the brain during waking hours that creates increasing drowsiness as the day progresses. Adenosine is a byproduct of neural activity and energy metabolism. The longer we remain awake, the more adenosine accumulates, binding to receptors that slow neural activity and produce the sensation of sleepiness. When we examine Viking sleep practices through the lens of modern sleep science, a remarkable picture emerges. Many of the conditions that contemporary research identifies as critical for healthy sleep were present, not through deliberate design based on scientific understanding, but through a lifestyle that aligned naturally with human biological needs. The Vikings, engaging in regular physical activity throughout the day, experienced robust adenosine accumulation. Physical work increases metabolic activity, which increases adenosine production. By evening, after a day of physical labor, the sleep pressure from accumulated adenosine was substantial, creating genuine, strong drowsiness. The second major sleep regulation mechanism is the circadian rhythm, the approximately 24-hour cycle driven by the master clock in the brain's suprachiasmatic nucleus. This clock is synchronized to the external day-night cycle primarily through light exposure. Bright light, particularly the blue wavelengths abundant in morning sunlight, signals daytime to the circadian clock. The Viking exposure to natural light, with bright outdoor light during the day and true darkness at night, provided powerful circadian synchronization. The morning light reset the clock each day, ensuring that circadian rhythms remained aligned with the external world. The evening darkness triggered melatonin production at the appropriate time. Modern humans, with inadequate daytime light exposure and excessive evening and nighttime light exposure, often have weak circadian rhythms. The day-night signal is muddy, unclear. Melatonin production may be delayed or suppressed. The circadian clock drifts out of alignment with external time. This is the homeostatic drive for sleep, one of the two primary mechanisms regulating when we sleep. This contrasts with modern sedentary lifestyles where reduced physical activity leads to less adenosine accumulation and weaker sleep drive. Darkness signals nighttime and triggers melatonin production. This strong, clear circadian signaling supported sleep that was well-timed and of good quality. The temperature regulation during sleep is another area where Viking conditions aligned with optimal sleep science. The human body needs to decrease its core temperature by approximately 1 to 2 degrees to initiate and maintain sleep. The longhouse environment, with cooler air in the sleeping areas away from the fire and the ability to adjust furs and blankets for individual comfort, supported this necessary temperature decrease. Modern homes, often maintained at constant temperatures, may actually be too warm for optimal sleep. The recommendation is generally for bedroom temperatures between 60 and 67 degrees. The result is difficulty falling asleep at the desired time, difficulty waking in the morning, and reduced sleep quality even when adequate time is spent in bed. This is accomplished through vasodilation, the widening of blood vessels in the extremities, which allows heat to dissipate from the body's core to the environment. The sleep stages themselves, the architecture of sleep, follow a predictable pattern through the night. The first part of the night is rich in deep, slow-wave sleep. Stages 3 and 4, where the brain waves are large and slow, where the body accomplishes physical restoration. Cooler than most people maintain their living spaces. The Vikings, sleeping in spaces that cooled through the night as fires burned lower, naturally experienced the temperature decrease that promotes deep sleep. The latter part of the night contains more REM sleep, where dreams are most vivid, where memory consolidation and emotional processing occur. This architecture emerges naturally when sleep is uninterrupted and properly timed according to circadian rhythms. The Viking biphasic sleep pattern, with first and second sleep periods, allowed for the natural unfolding of sleep architecture twice each night.